Well, hello! I want to welcome you to another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is a show where I look at the pens I'm using this week and the inks that are in them. If this is the kind of show that interests you and you like to see fountain pens, both new and old, in use, and inks, and see reviews of fountain pens and occasional forays into the wilds of North Dakota, feel free to subscribe below. If you have an interesting pen you would like to talk about, feel free to talk about that in the comments below. This week, from left to right, I have a very small collection of pens in use, for good reason, which I will get to when I get to the last pen. So I have my Aurora Style, which is on its last few drops of ink, my Lamy 2000, which is my daily writer, so even if that gets empty, I'll fill it up again. My Pilot Custom 823, which has been used to correct paper, so it's been slow to empty out. My Aurora 88, which did empty out, and once again I filled it up again, because doggone I can't get enough of that pen yet. The novelty has not worn off. The Garant Silka, an East German pen. And the reason there are so few pens in use this week, because I've been playing with this guy, a Noodlers Boston safety pen. So those are the pens I have in use. The Noodlers Boston safety pen I had put off in my mind as, yeah, someday it might be kind of cool. I bought this Aurora 88 and spent way too much money on it, and I've just been buying pens lately. And I assumed, Boston safety pen, that's a pretty safe bet that I won't be able to find one. And then I did. Hey, what do you know? Nipsmith.com if you're interested. They're the same price every retailer I've seen, whether back-ordered or not. This one was not back-ordered, although the last I looked, it was back-ordered there as well. But anyway, let's take a look at how these guys are writing. As always, I am writing in my Bomo art journal, which is made in Budapest, Hungary. Very nice notebook. Definitely deserves a review in the very near future. I just need time to film. There's a little bit of background information I have to provide with this notebook, and I just need time to put all that together. So that said, let's take a look at these pens. If you're like me, it's been a bit of a struggle to remember to correct your date. My personal philosophy is part of that is just muscle memory. We've been writing 2017 for 365 days, so it's just kind of hard to change over. But I think I succeeded this week. So this is my Aurora Style, like I said, on its last few drops of ink. Hopefully it doesn't run out during this brief little writing session. I like it. It's a very, it's almost a retro appearance, a very attractive, understated, but yet clearly some design to it. And I like that Aurora has put some thought into one of their lower cost lines with a steel nib. Aurora pens typically have a little bit more feedback than other brands. This is a broad, although the tipping material looks like it would write a broader line than it actually does. My ink is the Polish Kwz Brownish Pink, which is an interesting pair of colors to put together, and yet I like it. Also, it smells vaguely of vanilla, which is a Kwz thing. The fungicide they put in the ink. I've actually had, I held up a bottle of ink this week as an example of some stuff I was teaching in physical science. Anyway, I pointed out how it's different from a bucket of paint, because the paint, the solids will settle out, whereas the ink doesn't. And one of the kids asked me if you can drink the ink. Well, it's a 350 milliliter bottle of Pilot Black, and I said, well, no. There's a really nasty fungicide in there that will really do bad things to you. And so it's the fungicide that gives the KWZ ink its interesting smell. I personally don't care one way or the other about this smell, although it does seem to linger in the pens long after the ink is gone. My favorite fungicide smell is in the Sailor inks. Pilot also has a little bit of a smell, but it reminds me of dissection fluid, to be honest. I'm old enough, I remember when they were using formaldehyde, and I don't know if it's formaldehyde in the Pilot ink, but yeah, it's kind of what it smells like, only weaker. So anyway, beat that as it may, that's the Aurora Style with KWZ Brownish Pink. My next pen in use is a Lamy 2000, which is my daily writer pen. I always have this inked up, generally with the same ink, especially in the winter. In the summer, I get a little bit more creative with which pen is going to be my daily writer, everyday carry pen. So Aurora 2000, you see this every week, so we'll just give it a quick twirl and we'll get to work. Nice understated design. It's very functional. Love this pen. If I could only have one pen, this might very well be it. Although I have a vintage pen I like a lot too. But luckily we don't have to make those choices. I have Lamy Black in this pen. In fact, this week the offerings are going to be a little dismal except for the next pen. I just kind of dark inks this week. My next pen sometimes becomes my daily writer in the summer. I actually bought it originally to be the daily writer, but then I was just uncomfortable using it all the time. Just too nice. So this is my Pilot Custom 823 as a fine nib. So since it's a vacuum filler, we'll unscrew this bit. Actually, I need to hurry up and get this emptied out, so maybe I better correct a bunch of papers, because I often use this as a demo for air pressure. So this is my Pilot Custom 823. Hard to believe I've had this pen for about 5 years. I did not realize that until I started doing my Survivor Pen series. And holy cow, yeah, 5 years I've had this pen. So this is KWZ Grapefruit. Just like the KWZ Brownish Pink, it definitely has that sort of vanilla smell, which is interesting. So I splurged before Christmas. I purchased myself an Aurora 88. And even then, I didn't pay as much as you can pay for this pen. I'm still really thrilled with it. I'd kind of like to try one of their regular fine nibs. This one happens to have a flex nib. There were only 188 made in this color, which I guess makes it special. But, it's really not how rare it is that makes it special to me. It's how it writes. And this is the third time I've filled it without cleaning it. For better or for worse. Whoops, bad angle there. This is with the flex nib. And actually, the only reason I put this particular ink in it was for its review. Just because I was disappointed with the one I tried in it. And I really need to put a more fun color in it. But yet, I've been doing a lot of daily writing type stuff with this pen and ink, so take that for whatever it's worth. Just, yeah, love that pen. And the nib, a little different for an Aurora. A little plainer than the typical nib on an 88. And I'm sorry, you'll probably see a little condensation. It's cold here in the basement. When I review a pen, I like to review it after at least 2 full fills have run through the pen. So, unless I say differently in the review, because there have been a few special cases over the years where I didn't do that, but unless I say differently, it's been run through at least 2 full fills. So this pen, I'm ready to review it now, except for a little background research on the company. This is a Garant Silka. I like it very much, but I'm going to adhere to my rules. 2 full fills. It's still on its very first fill. This is an East German pen. It was a gift from a viewer. It's a steel nib, but it writes very nicely. Garant Silka. Does it have a nib size? I can't remember. I don't see one. We'll just go with that. Anyway, this is Lamy Turquoise. So East meets West in this pen. And they seem to be getting along famously. So my last pen was a bit of a spur of the moment. I had pretty much decided, one of these days I'll get one. I looked at a few vintage safety pens and said, one of these days, but it really doesn't fill a place in my needs or uses at all. Sounds a little touchy. Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. And then I made the mistake of wandering through a sales website and discovered it on nibsmith.com. So this is a Noodlers Boston safety pen. This is a ebonite pen. It doesn't look like much on the outside. It's long as heck. But, look at the cap. Typical Noodlers clip. Noodlers ink. And, whoops, wrong way. Sorry about that. Boston safety pen. Noodlers Ink Company. You can kind of see some of the machining lines in the ebonite there. Now, the writing on the barrel is in the exact opposite direction. That's how I oriented it in my hand. I didn't realize until now that the cap and the barrel were in opposite directions, because see? So, on the barrel, Boston Safety Pen, Noodlers Ink Company. So you're saying, what's a Boston Safety Pen? Well, last week actually, you haven't seen it yet. Last week, I filmed a review for a Style pen up. It had a retractable nib. It was a French pen. I think the review uploads on February 6th. But anyway, I mentioned about the craze with safety pens, so I knew this was on its way. This is a true safety pen. When that review eventually uploads, February 6th, I think, if that's a Wednesday. Don't hold me to that. 6 plus... Ooh, might be February 7th. Anyway, whatever that Wednesday is in February. It's a retractable nib. It is not a safety pen. This is a safety pen. The difference is... Let me put this under the camera. This cap does a lot more than keep the nib from drying out and protect it from getting splayed or whatever. This is actually holding the ink in right now. What's that, you say? Well, let me uncap it. Keep my fingers there so we don't change the autofocus settings. Oops, where's the nib? Well, it's in there. When I eventually review this, which may be a while because I have to do 2 full fills, you'll see that the nib is down there quite deeply. I'm going to have to change my lighting situation for you to see it when I do the review, but it's down there. And I cannot tip this to its side, so you'll just have to trust me, but I'm going to push up on this bit, and there it comes. Now, we have formed a very nice seal here, and you're thinking, wow, nib creep, Batman. Well, what's happened is the ink was free to flow all around the nib this whole time, and the cap is what held it in the pen. So this is a Noodlers. This apparently is the same nib on the Noodlers Nib Creeper. A Noodlers Boston. The advantage of this is that this pen can actually use a lot of different inks that don't work in a typical fountain pen because they'll dry out on the nib and cause issues. I don't have those inks because I have fountain pens. I won't say this is one of my favorite inks. This isn't an ink I have used in a long time, but I used it in this pen. Noodler's Heart of Darkness. It's kind of like Noodler's Black, but not as good on cheap paper. Now that I'm done writing, we'll just retract the nib. Do not tip the pen on its side until you cap it. And now I can, go nuts. Ah! That sounds like a Howard Dean I have a scream moment. But anyway, the moral of the story is it's a safety pen, and I had a whole series of pens inked up to replace those that have been used up, but you know what? I wanted to use the safety pen, so that's what I've used this week. So those are the pens I have in use. No big excitement on the horizon, just for the next couple weeks, just a few more reviews. I'm working really diligently to get ahead on my pen reviews. I would like to film enough reviews to be through Science Olympiad season, because that's kind of Science Olympiad / basketball, because that's my really busy time when I give up a lot of free evenings. In fact, this weekend I'm giving up my Sunday, which is when I film a lot of reviews, to photograph a concert at the school. So, it's worth it. It's a concert actually arranged and put on by the kids with advice from our music teacher, but it's more kid produced. And, I'm a teacher, and I want to empower students, and I want to see them producing things. So hell yeah, I'm going to go watch that. Forget these fountain pen reviews, but I'm a few weeks ahead. So, yeah, I am now filmed up through, I think I'm filmed through Valentine's Day. So getting there. But that's what I have. Now, one thing you might look forward to in the coming weeks, I'm still deciding how I want to approach it. One day, spontaneously, I took my camcorder to school with me. It was now you will not see a single student. I was very, very, very super careful about that because, well, for reasons. But give you a quick look around the school and where I teach. And I'll tell you the reason is I was actually inspired by a message I got, a private message from somebody who I think is a high school student or else a citizen with a high school student. I guess on reflection, I'm not sure which one it was, but in a country where there's a bit less freedom than the United States, and they were just curious about U.S. schools. And, this footage was never going to see the light of day after I thought about it, but, I got that private message, like, holy cow. So I don't know if it'll be inspiring or not, but anyway, I'm thinking about putting that together along with some other stuff about my town. I left the school and then I walked around town a little bit to go to the post office and such, and then I battery ran dead, and so we'll see what I put together with that. But yeah, it just kind of put things in perspective for me. I thought, oh, yeah, there are some people in the world that have it pretty bad. There are some people in the world that would just love to have a school in general, and meanwhile, U.S. students are like, why do we have to go to school? School sucks. And other people in the world are like, I want to go to school. Why can't I go to school? And, so here in the United States, we have it pretty good, and we just don't realize how good we have it. I mean, I'm ordering a 3D printer for my classroom. Other parts of the world are saying, could we have books? Could we get paper? Maybe some electricity would be nice, running water. Maybe get rid of these rats that are running across the classroom. Literally, I know somebody who taught in a country where that was an issue. We've got it pretty good, and we really, really, really need to appreciate that, and I don't think we do. And that's one of the unsung problems with American education, honestly, is that we don't appreciate what we have. So anyway, I hope this was interesting, hope was useful. If videos like this, where I talk about fountain pens, both old and new, inks, pens, the writing life, interest you, please feel free to subscribe below. If you have a interesting pen that you've purchased recently, like my Boston safety pen, or something else that's interesting, please feel free to comment below, or if anything else I've commented on in this video, because these are more rambly videos, strikes your fancy, comment on that as well. So anyway, I thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.